how do you know when to start introducing protein into your child's diet as young as a very small child, a very young baby? Hi, and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Sarah Peternell. I'm the owner of Family Nutrition Services in Denver, Colorado, and I'm also the creator of a 30-day online Hashimoto's program called Nourished and Renewed with Hashimoto's. If you're new here, welcome. I love to talk about nutrition. I have a variety of playlists that you can check out, videos about Hashimoto's, videos about children. I'm going to cover some topics about that today, family nutrition, and also a lot of videos about detox, which is another area of nutrition that I'm very passionate about. Today I'm recording this video in my home, so welcome. I have been thinking a lot about kids and protein. In fact, recently I was interviewed by Colorado Parent Magazine, and they had some great questions about how do you know when to start introducing protein into your child's diet as young as a very small child, a very young baby. This is a great question. It's one that I get a lot of times from my viewers on YouTube. It's a question that I sometimes get from followers on other social media channels, and it's definitely one of the top questions I get from the clients that I work with, the families of young children, maybe like you. So I have young kids too. Well, they're not so young anymore. My son is 12 and my daughter is 10. And honestly, one of the very first foods that I introduced for my children are protein-rich foods. There's a reason for this. If you're a new parent, you're a new mother, and you're breastfeeding, after like the first few months, your body's production of breast milk will start to change based on their needs. So both a breastfeeding mother's diet and the early needs of a baby who's starting to transition to solid foods needs to be adequate enough to meet their growth and developmental milestones that they will be reaching at a young age, for some as early as 4 months old. How do you know when your baby is starting to need more protein? Well, when they're starting to get strong enough to hold their head up, when they're sitting up and they have trunk and torso control, and also when they start having a lot more tummy time and maybe even start army crawling or moving around, and they are showing you that they are getting ready to become active, growing babies. Their muscles are developing, their brains are developing, and they're starting to fine-tune both large motor and small motor skills. This is a great time to be thinking about protein both in the diet of the breastfeeding mother as well as in some of baby's first foods. Luckily, if you're breastfeeding and you're eating a very healthy, whole foods-based diet that's balanced and well-rounded and primarily consisting of fresh, whole organic foods and clean organic meats, your body knows what to do with those nutrients in order to make it into the healthiest breast milk possible for your baby. And also, if you're weaning your baby around this time, maybe because you're going back to work, maybe there are issues with breast milk supply. I have Hashimoto, so I understand that for sure. Or if your baby is just starting to not show interest anymore in breast milk and is maybe ready to start eating table foods, well, now is the time to start thinking about incorporating some of the first protein foods that baby will eat. I'm going to talk about a little bit older kids in a minute, so if you're thinking, well, I don't have a baby anymore, this video is not for me, stay tuned because I am going to be talking more about the different developmental needs throughout the stages of a young child's life. So thanks for sticking with me. For babies, I ascribe to the philosophy, the nutrition philosophy that was ultimately sort of sealed and recognized as being very, very important by Weston A. Price and the Weston A. Price Foundation. Their philosophy is that our ancestors, and still today, ancestral tribes and original tribes around the world who don't eat commercial food products like for babies, baby formulas and rice cereal for babies, and then for growing children, white breads, sugar, etc. In some of these original cultures around the world, they are eating the foods off the land. They are eating what is available to them, much as our ancestors of developed countries did years and years and years ago. You don't have to think back too far to kind of, get a sense of what original diets maybe looked like. Maybe your grandparents or great-grandparents have shared some stories with you about what it was like to consume foods and to source foods when they were much younger. So we have become very industrialized as a food nation, and we have also started to stray more towards some of the grain-based, processed oil, and refined sugar-based foods. But protein from animal sources, whether it's animal meat, animal milk, animal eggs, and animal things like bugs and bone marrow and broth and other things, and some kind of byproducts of some of the animal proteins, were very much a part of what people lived off of the land to consume. The Weston A. Price Foundation has done lots of research, and they have a great website. If you're interested, you can check that out, westonapricefoundation.org, and you can learn about some of these principles and practices which guide them. But today, even modern researchers are looking into this, and there are some researchers, even here at the University of Colorado. Dr. Nancy Krebs did a research paper a few years ago about protein-rich foods being one of the best first foods for baby. This made me very happy to hear. Again, when a baby is starting to transition, maybe away from breast milk, and maybe if they're starting to do a formula, or maybe even the pediatrician may recommend something like a rice cereal because baby's showing signs of being extra hungry or being extra busy, I would suggest first thinking about a couple of other options that you can do as you're introducing baby's first solid foods. When my babies were little, they were very interested in foods. This is another subject for another time, talking about readiness and what types of foods to introduce. I'm going to focus really just on the protein components. My babies were very interested in foods, and they were also very experimental and adventurous with their palates. Lucky for me. So I followed a lot of the Weston A. Price recipes, the 3-second egg yolk, and a chicken liver puree, as well as cooking a lot of their early pureed vegetables with a very high quality bone broth. If I couldn't make one for myself, I was purchasing from Kettle and Fire. So when we think about introducing proteins for baby at this young of an age, believe it or not, their digestive systems can actually handle this. Their digestive systems are actually better able to handle proteins even than carbohydrates, because carbohydrates often will require the amylase enzymes to kick in, which for babies, this timeline can vary. It might be when teeth and molars start to come in after the baby's first year of life. Also, remember that the baby's digestive system is very immature. And so a lot of times, with more of the sort of refined products, like products made from grain, teething biscuits, crackers, processed rices and cereals and things like that, the gut does not have the adequate enzymes to help break these insoluble fibers and these grain products down, and in turn they can lead to basically what is leaky gut in a young child. What this might turn out into later in life can be some food intolerances, some gut dysbiosis, and even if there's a family history of autoimmune disease later in life, introducing grains too soon or a diet too rich in grains and carbohydrates may be sort of, the precursor to some things like autoimmune illness. Again, that's another video for another day. I could talk about this stuff all day. Back to protein. When you're moving away from breast milk, your baby's ready for the amino acids that are found in high quality animal protein sources. Your baby is ready for those amino acids because they are the building block of their growth and development for their muscles, for their brain, and for so many different systems and organs within their body. Also, animal protein contains nutrients that their bodies really need and can't get adequately from too many other sources. For example, zinc, which is a mineral, which is very important for many of the developmental and growth stages in a young baby's life, as well as supporting the immune system, and as well, supporting eye and brain, skin, and many of the hormones that are developing even in a young baby. The other nutrient that's contained in animal protein that you can't really find adequately anywhere else is vitamin B12. Vitamin B12 is primarily found in animal sources. And so for many people, if they're choosing to be a vegetarian or a vegan, this can be a challenge to get enough B12 in the diet, and they may need to find that they have to supplement with a B12 supplement. For kids, if they're starting out on a pretty well-rounded conscious omnivore diet, consisting again of those lean and clean, consciously sourced, humanely raised, preferably organic if possible, but animals that are raised in their own living conditions the way Mother Nature intended. Think of, cows grazing on green pastures, chickens running around amongst the bugs and the worms and the plant material. This is the type of protein that you can think about for your children to start with. It doesn't mean that they're sitting down and chewing on a steak. I have some resources on my website. One is the link to the article on the Colorado Parent magazine website, where you can learn more about some of my specific recommendations for babies. But I'll just recap a few. A 3-second egg yolk, where you just cook the egg yolk separated from the white over the stove in, say, a little bit of olive oil or maybe ghee for just a couple of seconds until it starts to coagulate. This makes a wonderful first food for baby. Unless, of course, there are egg allergies in the family, you may want to consult with your pediatrician. Making a liver puree from cooked organic chicken livers, and blending them with bone broth, a little bit of olive oil and a pinch of sea salt to make a very kind of thin mousse out of the chicken livers is another great way to give them a very easily digestible, high in zinc and high in protein and the proper cholesterols that their body needs. I used to make this for my babies. My husband would come home and take what was left out of the food processor and put it on toast. So I guess it's pretty good. Other ways to incorporate protein for your young child include bone broth for cooking vegetables, and also sourcing, if you are choosing grains, some of the higher protein grains or pseudo grains like quinoa. I, of course, because I have celiac disease and Hashimoto's, recommend that you try to look for gluten-free grains and gluten-free grain products for as long as you can with your baby, until you know if there's going to be any digestive issues, just because gluten intolerance is so common these days. And also, many of the gluten-free grains, like buckwheat, for example, tend to be higher in protein than just kind of your standard wheat products. All right, let's talk about some protein needs for the growing children. We're talking like school age and then getting even older into adolescence and teenage years. I'm going to kind of lump all of these together. So growing children need a certain amount of protein per body weight. So as they grow, they need more and more protein. When they start out as a baby, it might just be a tablespoon here and there, and that's enough. You don't have to, be cooking up giant batches of baby food at home. As your child begins to feed themselves and they're using their pincher grasp and they're sitting at the table with the family, they can start to have some of the cooked meats that you might be serving to the rest of your family. For example, a cooked chicken breast that you can dice up into very, very small, soft bites is very adequate for a 1 to 2-year-old, and safe too. This would be the right amount of protein and the right kind of protein, and as they get bigger, you can start to incorporate more protein throughout the day. For example, maybe eggs with breakfast, maybe some kind of a pureed meat with vegetables for lunch, and then finger foods with dinner. Feeding toddlers can be very tricky. I'm going to be doing a video soon about everything you need to know for working with your child to help combat some of the most common problems with toddlers. As children get older and they go off to school and they're using their brains and they're learning and they're maybe starting sports, they're running around playing with their friends, again, the need for protein increases. It is common for some children to develop an iron deficiency, anemia. Check out my website at sarahpeternell.com and you can read all about the need for iron in children. Where's the best place to get iron? Well, in animal protein. So if you're going to be serving meat to your children, you may want to occasionally include the consumption of grass-fed beef or bison or lamb, or even get creative and try something like elk or venison. These red meats, also including darker meat poultry like chicken thighs, are great sources of obviously the protein, but as well the great sources of the iron that your children need, so that as they grow and develop and their body's needs for iron increase, that they will have adequate amounts. I work with a lot of families where there may be a diagnosis of something called failure to thrive. Failure to thrive has really, unfortunately, a lot of terrible connotation. And I'll get a referral from a pediatrician's office because maybe baby or the young child is not reaching kind of where they need to be on the growth curve. And this can be upsetting for parents. But the reality is that we can address a lot of these issues with diet. And so for children, because of their rapid growth and because of the ways in which their body is able to utilize nutrients, just making some small tweaks in the diet can really go a long way. I understand that a lot of families today are really opting more for vegetarian and vegan lifestyles, and I get it because I do 100% believe that our industrialized food industry is not good for human health. So I would encourage you to think about really becoming a conscious omnivore, seeking out the best sources of protein for your child. And serving little by little and allowing them to increase their palate and their taste buds and develop a real flavor for these animal proteins as they grow. Now, like my son who's 12, he is in the early stages of puberty and he's growing like crazy. He's almost taller than me and I'm about 5'4.5". So he is starting to really take off. He's also a multi-sport competitive athlete. Does this child need protein? Yes, absolutely. Now I can't leave out my daughter too because she's 10 and a half and she's a multi-sport competitive athlete. I'm very blessed that my kids are really into sports. They're really active. They love to do all kinds of things with their friends and their teammates. But you know what? They are increasing our grocery budget right now and things are getting a little bit out of hand. My children, because of their active lifestyles, need more protein right now than my husband and I do. So protein needs are really based on a percentage of the amount of protein in their diet based on their body weight, and this increases over time. If your child is active in sports, they need to be replenishing with protein 45 minutes after exercise every single time they exercise. And if they're exercising for long periods of time, that protein need increases as well. Protein in an athlete is really designed to go in and help repair damaged muscle tissue where we create these little striations, right, in the short muscle fibers after a run or after playing soccer or lifting weights or swimming or whatever it is that kids are doing. And so those little tiny tears are replaced and repaired by the protein that they consume from the diet. So this makes it really important that parents of especially athletes, young children, adolescents, pre-teenagers, and teens are getting enough protein in their diet. Let me tell you what I think a typical day of protein might look like for, say, your late school-aged child who is maybe not quite going through puberty, but maybe is very active. It probably consists of a couple of maybe scrambled pasture-raised eggs, which is a really great source of protein. There's at least 8 grams of protein per egg. So that's a great way to start the day. And perhaps maybe if you're serving something else like an organic yogurt with just maybe a little bit of granola and some fruit, there's going to be protein in that yogurt as well. So you started them off on the right foot today. Congratulations. For a snack, a protein choice might be something like I love the Z bars, which are created very similar to beef jerky. And they're made with organic ingredients and a variety of different flavors, including a variety of different meats like turkey and beef and lamb and chicken. So I like to buy the Z bars and put those in my kids' lunch boxes. Or just kind of your old standard beef jerky will do too, but watch out for sodium and added ingredients that can be harmful to your child. Hard-boiled eggs and salami, cheese sticks, these are all great protein snacks as well. For lunch, maybe your child is having, say, like a leftover chicken drumstick in their lunchbox, or at home, if they're at home. A leftover chicken drumstick, maybe like a whole grain such as cooked brown rice or quinoa or buckwheat, and perhaps some steamed or stir-fried vegetables. Vegetables also contain protein. In fact, broccoli is a great source of plant-based protein. So that would make a great lunch. And then for dinner, again, rounding out the day, if they've been active multiple times throughout the day, you're going to be finishing the day with some protein, maybe like some grilled wild-caught salmon, maybe a nice big green salad with maybe like some pumpkin seeds or something, which again is another great source of plant-based protein, and perhaps a sweet potato or something that, again, in the plant world, all plants contain a little bit of protein, but some are better than others. So I will put a link in my pinned comments down below to give you some more suggestions for feeding your growing children. I want to finish up by addressing protein powders with kids, because you might be thinking right now, oh my goodness, I don't know if I'm giving my kids enough protein, and can't they just have a protein shake? Won't that work to fill in the gaps? Yes and no. The reason why, yes, is that sometimes it is hard to get enough protein, especially into a growing teenage boy. Protein powders have some problems, however. Many of them have unwanted additives and other ingredients, fillers, sugar even, and they can have pretty crappy sources of protein. For example, many of them that are, say, whey-based are from a dairy source that may not be very clean. And because so many kids are dealing with food intolerances or have gut issues, I don't recommend whey. For growing boys, I would say definitely stay away from some of those soy proteins, because those can be problematic for their endocrine system. Boy, I'm really throwing a lot of challenges out there for you today. If you are looking for a high-quality protein powder, I can suggest one, and I'll put the link to it for the site at Metagenics, which makes great products, and they have a product called the Advanced Protein, and this is what I myself take from time to time, but also that I give to my kids. The reason why is that it includes vitamins and minerals, so in some ways, it's a great stand-in for a multivitamin if you only have enough time to get those nutrients in, say, in a smoothie one time per day. Has a great flavor, kids like it, and it has all of the great branched chain amino acids from a company that's really focused on quality. All right, so I hope that this helps answer some of your questions about why protein is important from birth, how children's protein needs change as they grow, how children who are athletes need even more protein, giving you some suggestions of different types of protein foods that you can incorporate into your family, and I've given you the lowdown on what might not be so great about some protein powders. Thank you so much for watching today's video. And if you know other people who maybe have the same question, please feel free to share it. I appreciate that you're here. Like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you can be the first to get my new videos when they pop up. Glad you're here, and thanks for watching. Hi there. This summer, I've created for you an amazing summer solstice meal plan subscription. It comes in 3 options: the 4-week plan, the 8-week plan, or the 12-week plan. All of the meals are included. 4 meals a day: breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks, 7 days a week. And each week you get access to this beautiful handout with colorful recipes, a complete grocery list, and all of the nutritional information to help you stay on track with your healthy goals this summer. Spend more time in the sun having fun and less time worrying about what you're going to eat. This is a great way to stay on track with your goals and to learn some new, kind of yummy, fun new recipes. They'll stick with you for the long haul. Go to my website, sarahpeternell.com, and click on the Resources tab, and there you'll find the meal plan subscription. Thanks.